Welcome to another episode of Into Final Thoughts. Before we jump into it, I want to tell you to check out our official partner of this season of Into Final Space, Cartoon Crave. Cartoon Crave is an incredible network and news source for all things animation, including Final Space. To learn more, check them out on Instagram at cartooncrave_ and at the Cartoon Crave on Twitter. Now, let's get into the episode. And we are back into Final Space. We have another great episode. Going to be hard to follow up last week. We had a really good time last week talking about the Ventrexian. But my name is Gabe Jones, host of Into Final Space, and I am back with
Olan Rogers. I'm the executive producer, writer, creator, star of Final Space. Here to get into some final thoughts.
Heck yeah. Yep, we are talking about episode 4 of Final Space Season 3 today. So if you have not seen that episode, stop now, go back and watch it, and then come back and join us, because it's going to be a fun one.
Yes.
Good time breaking down episode 4. So let's get into Final Space. First question. So we've come to, I don't even know if I can call this a chiller episode. It throws a bunch of punches itself, but after Ventrexian, it gives us a bit of time, very small amount of time to breathe. Yeah. So what it went into the thought process behind number 4?
Yeah, this was always kind of like, this was an interesting episode because it's doing a lot of different things,
Yeah.
But we always knew that, at some point, the crew was going to converge and reunite at some point. And we wanted to do it kind of earlier on in the season because I don't think anybody really wants to kind of wait an entire season for this crew to be separated. So we wanted to kind of, obviously separate them and then kind of, have them reunite. And this is that kind of reunite, but obviously it comes at a cost. And I think it was good to kind of, have these characters kind of diverge and really spend time with, kind of, each side for a little bit. And it gave us the opportunity to kind of really spotlight, different characters, even in these first couple episodes. And we do it even more later on, but these first couple episodes we're like, yeah, let's do something different. So this one kind of, it has a lot going. It has, the obviously the continuation of Quinn and Gary. She's kind of keeping this sickness a secret, and you kind of get the whole breadth of why she's doing it, but also on the other side you get that where Ash's powers come from.
Yeah.
And then you have this really kind of, kind of the cream filling of the episode, the Tribor Quatronostro kind of starting this resistance in Final Space. So, there's definitely a lot of fun to be had in this episode.
Yeah, we got a lot to break down in this episode. Let's kick it off just at the top with this really, really cool, very well animated fight between Lord Commander and Ash, where we see Ash just get obliterated. And we got
not necessarily.
she goes ham on him. But it's interesting seeing these two fight because we've seen up to this point Ash is kind of her powers have kind of rivaled everything else, and now you got Lord Commander back in action, full power. Because last time that we saw him, I think back to season 1 of he was of course very powerful at the beginning, but we slowly saw that degradation of him as his powers kind of consumed him. So it went into this very, very cool fight here.
Yeah, we always kind of this season we were like, what are those things that we really want to see, and what's kind of like a really cool moment that we could give Ash in this kind of cold open,
Yeah.
And we love the idea of Ash kind of going toe to toe to kind of not only show that, that she is, matchable to Lord Commander, pretty dang close.
Yeah.
But it's almost like just kind of getting to see something like that as kind of, everybody's kind of dream. It's like Titans fighting,
Right. Yeah.
You're seeing a different kind of Titan, two Titans fighting at this point. And it was really cool to see the obviously the director and storyboarders kind of really take ownership over that and just kind of keep plussing it. And then the animators plussed it at Jamfield, and then the comp team plussed it even more. And it became like better and better in every iteration. Yeah. So it's become this even cooler thing than, it was on the page, So sure. It's really cool to kind of see that kind of manifest. So props to the team squad there, because they're the ones that kind of really amped it up.
Absolutely. Yeah. When when Adult Swim released that as the kind of intro for this week, or the teaser for this week, I kept seeing all the folks on Twitter that worked on that scene tweet about it. They're like, I'm so glad to finally see this come to fruition. People from over at Jamfield and Borders over at Shadow Machine. And it's like, it's a really, really tight scene. And like, it's just really fun to watch. Let's just, I guess, following that, just dive into Ash a bit more. And, we talked about her. She's going to be a big part of this season. One of the characters you really wanted to highlight this season. Just kind of going back to even season 2, where do you kind of draw your inspiration for this character? Like where's Ash come from for you as a writer?
Yeah. I think with, I remember the season 2 of it all, we really like this idea of two siblings that, weren't kind of biological. And that's kind of obviously like a big theme in this, is like, it's very found family,
Yeah.
And we love the idea of kind of having, Ash, this like really powerful person that doesn't necessarily know where she got her powers. It was kind of born in kind of this very traumatic event.
Yeah.
And, we love the kind of the opposite, which was the kind of the big kind of teddy bear fox, right. Kind of, that she's the kind of the, kind of more of the tough one, where he's the kind of more of the lovable one, and it's kind of cool to see those two pair together. And we just kind of, we really liked Ash, in season 2, and it was kind of really, trying to really find the voice to that character, and Ashley Burch, who just really kind of takes ownership over it and takes it to a whole nother level. We realized we wanted to kind of really do something cool this season with Ash. And it was kind of crazy. When I remember when we started the writer's room for season 3, we were brainstorming, like, what are the characters that we kind of really want to like spotlight a little bit. And it's kind of funny, like typically when we say spotlight, everybody thinks they're going to get their own episode. Like it's going to be this full-fledged episode. It's like that's not the case.
Yeah.
This is a part of a bigger story. Their story is interwoven into the A story. And even the Avocado, the Vitrexian, wasn't a backstory on Avocado. It was a glimpse into his life. Okay. A very important moment that's going to be a catalyst in this season. So we had to tell that story.
Yeah.
And I think once you kind of actually have the ability to tell a backstory in a way that there isn't like a ticking clock and it actually feels organic, I think that's when you crack into that season 4.
Yeah.
And we have like a really cool idea of how to really dive into the, the real backstory of Avocado. But even Ash, like there's some really cool stories that, are kind of opening themselves up with Avocado, with Ash, and even Quinn.
Yeah.
And I think it's this season, we're just kind of spotlighting them, They're not the star act of the stage. We're just spotlighting them. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
And they are the heart of the season. Like you will see it. Like they really kind of are at the forefront, and kind of almost like how Little Kato was at the forefront, I think, of season 2. You have these three characters that are kind of, more in the forefront of this season. So I think with Ash, we always knew we wanted to do something really cool with her. And, we got into that writer's room and said, okay, where do we want to start and where do we want to end? And we kind of came up with the ending first, and obviously I don't want to come up, and spoil anything. These episodes are always so hard because it's like,
we both know it's coming, but yeah.
But yeah, I think it's one of those things that we came up with the ending and we kind of back end and kind of, did a little back into it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really exciting spot. But the whole point of Ash to me was having a character that, not only a really other, strong female character that, you get to see it in physicality, but also on the emotional side too. And I think that's something that we always like to do with our characters in Final Space is that, a lot of people, I think, in shows and in movies and history and even kind of the mentality of kind of people growing up, people always kind of put this spotlight under, if you show emotion, if you show, kind of all the different ranges and colors of emotion, that's kind of a weakness, and we really like the idea of kind of, having these characters, experience the whole spectrum of these emotions,
right,
and use that as more of a strength, and nobody, and that's why, and one of the things I really like about this, the show, and I know we're getting off on a different tangent, but
hey, no, it's fine.
nobody ever gets on anybody for feeling anything, you know? Nobody's like, hey, toughen up, guy. Nobody ever does that. They're just like, hey, I'm there if you need me,
Yeah.
And I really like that. And I think that's something, that you're going to kind of see as the season goes on, is you're going to see those kind of moments. And you're going to see, even with Ash, but even with Avocado and even with Quinn, like there's some real emotional stuff that's coming up with these characters.
Right.
And they're all interwoven into this A story. And it kind of, it's like a domino effect, and you can't see it right now. You can't see kind of where the dominoes are stacking and where they're going to start to fall. But once they start to fall, it all kind of starts to make sense, know? Yeah. And I think with this episode, the first four really kind of felt like, okay, this was kind of a mixture of season 1 and season 2,
Yeah.
I feel like after this, it's kind of like, oh, we're in a whole new uncharted territory.
Yeah, it takes a complete new life of its own. And yeah, I think we said this almost, or you said this almost every time that I watch a new episode with you, is like, well, if you didn't get like those, you're gonna like what's to come, especially after 4. Is like if you hadn't caught on to that one, like the next group is just nonstop, really.
It really does. It hits the gas and it doesn't kind of let up. And the only episode I feel like it's kind of like a bottle episode or kind of a slower paced episode is 6.
6, yeah.
And I think that episode actually has a really meaningful story point.
Yeah.
But I think with kind of after that, it's I feel like 5 is pretty adrenaline inducing, and then you take a pause, and then it's like the gas is just nonstop. So this episode is a fun one. It's doing a lot of different stuff, and it kind of dives into a little glimpse of Ash. Finding out where those powers come from, that you realize, oh crap, it's from Invictus.
Yeah. And
we kind of explain that more and how that happens in a later episode. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think it's a cool idea. And I remember like David was pretty adamant about like, it has to be Invictus, and I was like, all right, sure. Yeah. I mean, let's figure out a reason of how it can happen and why it can happen. And
it gives it a new kind of point of interest. 'Cause I mean, you could just go, well, the powers come from the big baddie and that's it, and not give it justification. But I think, and without spoiling anything, that it works. It works really well. Especially for both Ash and Fox, we've kind of seen as these kind of very pure, very nice. I mean, like they both have their own quirks to them, and Ash kind of has that tougher side to her. Yeah. But they're both, of course, very nice characters, and they kind of have vibed well with the team squad.
Yeah.
And then just to show that those powers come from an ultimate evil is kind of a wow.
And I think you kind of at that point realize, oh, that's how she can expel Invictus's energy, is because it's kind of like a magnet almost. If you have two ends of the same charge, they repel each other.
Yeah.
So in this instance, you kind of get a little bit of understanding there of like how she can do that. And it really kind of starts to kind of, tip the hat of like, oh, okay, what does this mean? Right. Why isn't she like crazed like the Lord Commander, Yeah. And I think what you kind of you're going to kind of see is that Ash's powers were more unlocked, whereas the Lord Commander was like supercharged with it during the blast with John,
Yeah.
So I feel like what you're going to see is a really cool kind of storyline for Ash, and this is kind of like a little bit of the beginning. You're starting to see a little bit more Ash at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's kind of like as we keep going on, you're only going to see more Ash, more Quinn, and more Avocado.
Yeah.
Kind of from this point on,
Yeah.
Like we've been juggling kind of back and forth like the characters, but like from this point on, especially next episode, which is a massive Quinn.
Yeah.
Episode.
Oh yeah.
But kind of from that point, you're just seeing more Avocado, more Ash, and more Quinn in a really meaningful way. And they don't really have like those like a full episode, I would say. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
Not like the other side. You know what I mean? Little Kato. Because it all ties back into that A story.
Right.
And the A story is kind of basically the dominoes are falling in the A stories.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You were talking about like you didn't really feel the need to give these characters just standalone by themselves episodes. And I think a big part of that really shows is like the just harking back to that they need each other. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a place designed to drive them apart. And this team, this family needs each other.
Yeah. I think the big thing that I wanted to try to avoid this season more, and unfortunately, like, I always think that having an A, B, and C story, it makes a very crowded episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's also, you got to service the stories that you have kind of going on. And so sometimes
you got 13
C stories,
13, 20-minute episodes. Yeah. You got to fit everything that you want to try to fit in.
And so it's like, it's very ambitious to have that C story. And typically people don't do it. It's just, you don't do it in a 21-minute episode. Like,
right.
But we do it. And I think, the good news this season is there's only like, I think like kind of like 2.5 more episodes where you have a C story, and then it's all mainly an A.
Yeah.
You have B stories that
there's occasional B. Yeah.
That directly connect to the A though.
Yeah.
So it's not like a B story of like somebody out doing something else. It's like the B story is about the A story.
Yeah.
So it feels like a complete kind of one story kind of episode.
Yeah.
And you'll get a sense of that in the next episode 5. But this episode, I mean, it's a fun one. It's doing a lot of stuff. And I think that it has one of my favorite moments out of the entire series, I think, is when Gary's arm cracks into that gun.
Yeah.
And it was one of those moments that and I know like every fan will, I hope they cheered at that moment. That was what we were trying to do, is like a cheer moment. Like you jump up, you're like, yeah, I knew it, like, and it was one of those moments that when I first saw that and the boards, and I actually jumped up and said, finally, I got something cool. It's like, like I'm not just an idiot in this show. Like I got a gun hand. Yes. And then it was cool, and the thing is, like, I had always kind of wanted to do it, Organically, it didn't make sense season 1. Because we wanted him to be an underdog. We wanted it to kind of be something where he didn't have, something that cool to him. He was kind of a nobody, And I think with season 2, I mean, I was too busy worrying about piles of notes. Yeah. But with this season, I had the chance to do it, and I'm a huge Mega Man guy. So if you see that moment, you know why. Like it was all interconnected. Like I love Mega Man. Like me and my brother used to play those games all the time.
Yeah.
And I even made a fan film of Mega Man. Like I just love the idea of having that kind of gun arm, and it retracts into a sword, and there's so many there's kind of some big moments that it kind of comes into play, and I think the cool thing is it feels earned,
Yeah.
like it kind of makes sense into Gary that he just had no idea that he had this ability,
right?
And it took Biscuit of all things to basically say, hey, yo, you're not using this thing right. He's like, wait, what? What are you talking about? I thought it was just a hand. So it's kind of a cool thing to kind of get to bring that to life,
Yeah.
And I feel like people that have been with the show since season 1 will get a kick out of that one.
Oh yeah. It's a really fun moment, especially you talk about it feels earned at this point. And I felt like this was the right time to do it. That was a really fun part of this episode. So just keeping in the Gary vein, talk a bit about Quinn's infection progressing very rapidly now. And we talked a little bit about this as having to keep Gary at arm's length. But what's it like sitting in the writer's room and kind of figuring out this tension between these two, that at this point they're finally in the like opportune moment to be together, but they just can't.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of interesting. I actually I just kind of read something. It was like on Instagram, and it kind of maybe be like, it's probably like relevant for this. There's like a Japanese saying, that basically every person has 3 faces. And so one face is the kind of face that you present to people, Another face is the one that you present to your loved ones. And the other face is the one that you just present to yourself. And that's the kind of truest version of yourself.
Right.
And I think it's like Quinn knows what's going on, and she doesn't want to kind of break Gary's heart again, but she also, it's on, and I can imagine like people that are kind of go through sickness and, kind of like real tragic kind of health issues where they kind of, they don't want to kind of sit in the pain and the kind of the sadness. They want to live those last moments and make something out of it. And I think that's what Quinn is that she's like, you know what, if this is it, then I just want to make them count. I want to make every moment count, and that's why she's kind of really accelerating things, trying in their relationship. But she's also, it's also being very guarded, like she's in a really tough spot. And I think that Gary is on the other end, just doesn't know how to process that because he's not good at communicating with people. He's just not. And we've seen that because he pretty much has been by himself for most of his life,
Right.
So it's kind of like, and this is pretty much in most, relationships and stuff that you kind of see people, it would all kind of just, there wouldn't be any issue if they just kind of sat there and just talked it out, know? And I think in this moment, it's you're seeing the human reality of it, where they just can't bring themselves to do that. And that's why kind of most of these, most relationships have secrets and stuff like that. It's like, I think in this instance, it's kind of, it comes off as sweet, but I just kind of see the sadness of it, like I see that it's somebody that's this trying to think very selflessly and to not break somebody's heart. That's what I see.
Yeah.
And so it's I feel like it's a nice, sweet little thing. And I think it's you're only going to see more of them, So it's like it's every episode you're just seeing a little bit more and more and more and more. And I think by the end you're rooting for them,
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, just keeping on people who've broken Gary's heart. We did get some nice Cheryl moments in this episode, and I've seen people talking on the socials about when are we going to get Well, okay, it's either when is Cheryl gonna die? 'Cause there's some haters out there, or B, when are we gonna get this redemption arc that she's kind of started moving? But she's kind of, it kind of seems like she's working towards some redemption. Obviously, a long way to go, but you have any plans for this mother and son?
Yeah, I think it was one of those things that I remember we had like this original idea, this really cool idea, and we just didn't have the space for it. Like it was we only have 21 minutes to tell these kind of stories, and we realized, okay, we need to kind of spotlight. We spotlighted Cheryl season 2, like we did. Like she had
some great moments.
She had some meaningful moments there. And I think with this season, we're like, there's some characters that are back that deserve that time.
Yeah.
And I think with Cheryl, it's like, let's kind of plant those little moments throughout the series or throughout the season of kind of like, you see that she's trying. And I feel like those, like the more and more you see that, you're like, oh yeah, that was nice of her, and you're going to kind of see those moments throughout the season. And I felt like that was probably the best way to go for this season, because it allowed us to kind of, not have to like spotlight her, but you get these like really kind of like, it's kind of insane. Like every time that I see an episode, like, oh yeah, we added another one of those. Wow. Okay. And it kind of, in each one, you're kind of like, wow, this actually, it feels like there's something there. Like they're trying to build something, but they're just so awkward. They don't know how to do it. And so it felt like, let's for this season do that. And, we can always kind of expand on it later or whatever. But I mean, I felt like that was probably the best thing for this season. But you also get to see a really cool moment where, her abilities come into play, that no chain can keep her bound. Like she'll always break out of it. And it came into play in a very crucial moment. And she was able to kind of send a distress call and kind of was able to kind of save the crew. It's almost like the mouse in Avengers, like that's the mouse caused Ant-Man to come out and save the day. It's like it's the same thing. It's like Cheryl ended up saving the team because she had this skill. But yeah, she had a nice little moment, and you're only going to see like a little bit of those moments throughout. Like she's got a way to go until people warm up to her, but she is. I think she's going to be a good character, and there's going to be a meaningful arc there. And I think Claudia is just awesome. Like I love working with her. So yeah, I think that's you're starting to see a little bit of it.
Yeah. I think my favorite more is you and Claudia's interactions on Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, and then we have our other favorite father and son. We got some great Tribor and Quattro moments in this episode with just these far overpowered duo. So we got a new resistance here in Final Space. What should we expect from these two as we keep pushing on through this new resistance in season 3?
I think it's like the way that I view Tribor and Quattro at this moment is like, we get to have a little bit of a respite, like just kind of like, okay, we're watching something that's not, completely heartbreaking and sad, darkness. Like it's just a little bit of like a breath of air, that you sit there and laugh at. And I feel like that you're getting a sense of, their relationship that they got to kind of build upon it. And it's fun. Like anytime that I see those two, I just think it's fun, know? And at the bare minimum, we need that. Especially this season, like we need that fun. And I feel like with Tribor and Quattro, like it's, you start to kind of really like that duo every time you see them pop up on screen, because it's just such an odd pairing, it kind of reminds me of like, when you think of The Rock and like Jason Statham getting together, like Hobbs and Shaw, it's such a weird pairing, but you're like, it kind of works, but I like those two together. And every time I see those kind of those scenes, it allows us to do what we can do, like the epicness and the drama and the action and kind of we're able to do that because funny enough, Tribor and Quattro are sneaking in those laughs for executives to look at and say, yeah, okay, it's a comedy, there's all this other stuff, but there's some comedy in there.
Yeah, we had those great those anime kill strikes shots in this episode that just just hilarious to watch. It's like they just completely behead like 10 people with a whip at once. But they're really fun together, and I think they do provide some much needed relief and rest for weary fans as they push through the season, because every time you see them it's a laugh, you get a laugh out of it. And then just coming here kind of towards the end, we've got this sudden, of course, kind of set, and we talked about this kind of setting up for what's going to happen during the next episodes, this tension with Invictus possessed Fox and having to leave him behind, and then just kind of all of that kind of falling on Gary too. So what was your mindset going into this dynamic, and how is that going to affect our team squad going forward?
I think it was, it's one of those. I really like Fox, and Fox is one of those characters that it's not the last time you're going to see Fox too. So everybody, don't worry about that. But it's like we wanted to kind of make sure that threat was alive. And that's something that we did in season 1. Is we made sure to show, when Lord Commander rips off Gary's arm, like, hey, whoa, that's different.
Yeah.
The same thing here. If they just kept escaping, Invictus time and time and time and time again with no real consequence.
Yeah.
It felt like it was just kind of going to like you weren't going to believe that this was an enemy, sure. That this was kind of, we had to see what this enemy was capable of, but also, is it just this? Is there a bigger plan set in place for Fox?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're going to see. So I think with this, I think it was kind of one of those moments where we had to one person had to kind of be infected, by Invictus. And where it kind of fell into was kind of Fox, because it allowed us to kind of be able to spotlight the character down the road,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like, hey, it's going to be a whole episode about Fox, but we do shine a spotlight on the guy,
Yeah.
And so, I think with this, it was kind of, you had to see the stakes were real. You had to see that there is an enemy and it's legit, that this person, this thing, this entity, it's dangerous. And I think you get that sense at the end of this episode. That, oh man, one of them is this, what happened? They had to go, and you're starting to see like the squad get, kind of smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And so it's like this really cool, I think, moment, the first moment that I think is going to catch people off guard. And we wanted that. We wanted to kind of bring that sense of that season 1 kind of high stakes, high consequence back, know? Because you didn't get it in season 2.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it fit well as well with just what we were talking about earlier with the kind of Ash storylines, like, now we know where these powers come from. They're the same powers that are now infecting her brother, essentially.
Yeah. This episode is kind of I love the ending to this episode.
Yes.
And it's funny because it's like with this episode, it's like a little bit of a slow burn, and then you get to the ending and you're like, whoa, that's and it's kind of like the first 4. I feel like if you were to watch those back to back to back, it actually is pretty cohesive. Like it sits there together in a really nice way.
Yeah.
And I think after this is all said and done, after all the episodes are out, just binge them back to back to back.
Right.
And you'll get a new, I think, appreciation for what we were trying to do. And I think with this episode in particular, there's a lot of episodes in season 1 and even season 2 that were kind of like, I always call them like if you were to think of an Oreo, it's the cream filling, where it's like, it's a part of like, it's smashed in between 2 really good episodes. And this is one of those moments where you got, I think the Ventrexian was a solid episode. Funny enough, it's not even one of my like favorite episodes. It's solid. I actually think it's really solid, and I think with even this episode, I think it's really solid. I think episode 5 is absolutely off the charts.
Oh, it's
I think that is one of my favorite episodes of the series.
Oh yeah.
And then once
our big art and animation fans out there, it's a gorgeous episode. I'll spoil that. It's beautiful. It's so much fun to watch.
It's next level. It really is next level. And you start getting a sense of, it's funny because 6 is like it's a cream filling episode where you get it smashed between 2 really great episodes.
Yeah.
And then it's like you're just getting cookies. Just every episode, is a cookie.
Well, someone's taking your cookie and then just smashing it with a hammer. Yeah, that's probably those episodes.
It gets really good. And I just saw I just listened to the score to episode 10, and man, that is a massive episode. That is a juggernaut. So it's like I get excited about what's down the line, and that's just me in particular when I think about all these episodes, and even season 1, season 2, there's always that one episode that I really love, and I have a few this season that I genuinely really love, and I think that they're my favorite of the series, like the entire series.
Yeah.
And I think there were some really solid episodes in season 1, season 2, but I think there's some great episodes in season 3
Absolutely.
that are online. Yeah. So I think I think this is a solid episode, and obviously people could hate it, people could love it, people and there's all the ranges of spectrums. I have no idea how people are going to interpret this episode. Right. We always record these before.
Yep.
But what I do think is that it sets up the next episode really beautifully.
Yes.
And you get a really, really great episode next. It's just such a off the charts spectrum that this one, it had to do certain things to set up that episode.
Yeah. And I one more question, just kind of based off that, we're talking about you saying go back and binge this again. One of the things that we've talked about several times on the podcast with you, with David, it's like one of the reasons you believed in the success of or why this was so successful internationally was the binge aspect of it instead of the waiting on this episode. Do you think that has also carried through into season 3 in some regard? Is that going to be a different viewing experience for the international crowd? Yeah,
I think that when people watch it internationally and they get to binge it, it's going to be a treat. It really is, because it's so easy to kind of like sit on one episode and pick things apart. You know what I mean? Like, and I can do that. I can do that with any episode. I could. Sure. And it's so funny, like
so we do here.
Yeah. And look, I get it. I understand it. Look, rip it apart, tear it apart, poop on it, whatever you want to do. I don't care. But at the end of the day, it's like what I do know is that there are episodes that are genuinely really good. They'll be received good, and then it's like there's nothing to do for a week. You're just sitting around, like you can theorize all you want, but then you're just like, all right, well, let me look back on the episode and figure out what the things I don't like, Yeah. And then people start picking at it, and it's like, no, like don't you like the thing?
There's only so much content that I can show for the next one between Tuesday and Tuesday. You just have to wait.
And the thing is, that's the hard thing. But it also has a benefit to the waiting, and I'll tell that in a second. But the cool thing about binging is you're just getting the next episode right away. Yeah. You're like, oh, that was good. I can't wait for the next one. Oh, that was good. I can't wait for the next one. Oh man, I got to stay up and watch this.
Right.
And you start kind of, just kind of go through the end, and then you finish it and you're like, whoa. And so there is a benefit to that, that I think that for this kind of storytelling amplifies the story because you're in it, you're staying in it.
Yeah. It becomes its own experience outside of just, watching it week to week.
And I think there's something to obviously the week to week. And I think it really works, for a lot of different things. I think that for Final Space and I've even seen it with Marvel shows, I remember seeing like WandaVision and people raving about WandaVision, right? And then like waiting in between each episode, people started picking it apart.
Yep.
And then the finale, they're like, whoa, check out that finale. And then I saw like a day of people just like ripping apart WandaVision. I'm like, but wait, what? You guys love this thing. What happened?
Right. Yeah.
And then, I guess that's a part of it. That's a part of just TV shows. It's a part of viewing things. It's a part of the viewing experience. And, people, I think, enjoy that aspect of it because they would have to, and I remember back in the day, like anytime that I would see a movie, I'd walk out, with Jake. I would go see movies with Jake all the time. And, we would sit there and we just kind of, say, hey, did you like it? And it's like, yeah, I liked it. But, there's this thing and this thing and this thing. Yeah.
And then viewing experience.
And then we would talk about all the things that we didn't like for like 30 minutes on the drive back home. And then we would kind of, get back and like, yeah, it's pretty good. It's like, it's one of those things that you can't help but not do it.
Right.
But then here's the thing, after kind of actually making a show.
Yeah. I was going to say, I can't imagine it's a complete different experience for you because you're the one, you're just like, well, this came from my mind. This is my child.
After making a show and seeing how hard it is, I was like, you know what? I'll never rip into anybody's
never critiquing ever again.
And I've never done it. Even if I don't like something, I'll be like, yeah, it's pretty good. It's like I see what they're trying to do. I always come out of that positive because I know how hard it is.
Yeah.
And I just can't bring my brain to critique things the way that I used to because after being on the other end of it.
Yeah.
But I totally get it. Look, it's a part of the experience. People are passionate when they're passionate about something.
Yeah.
And they sit with something that long that they want to pick it apart. Hey, that's a fan, you want that. You want them to be that passionate.
Yeah.
So I think it's almost a compliment that they sometimes rip it apart, but at the same time, take it easy on some of this stuff. Like, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a part of the experience, and I think that the binging aspect of it helps the show,
Yeah.
And I think that the week to week, it's just a different experience. It's something where you want that next episode, but at the same time, you still want to stay within the show.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a week of just a lull where if you get those like little breadcrumbs of information, great. But there's just those moments where you're like, yeah, I don't know about that last episode, you can't help it. It's just a part of it.
Yeah.
So I get it.
What's also fun with the week to week is at least from my experience, I believe this is a good community of fans. And there's a lot of people out here who are very passionate about the show. And who are, we got things like the podcast and reaction videos and theories that are being thrown out and incredible artwork. I mean, especially after Ventrexia.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm sure you've been scrolling through Twitter and seeing some of that stuff. Like, wow.
Yeah.
So it gives you kind of that time. You get the episode, you get to brew on it, you get to criticize it if you had critiques, and then you get to interact with the fans who did the same thing that you're doing right now. So it's its own kind of experience outside of you sit down, watch it for several hours, and you're done with it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing is like I sometimes I'll scroll through just the tag, and everybody knows that. I used to comment a lot on posts that I was not tagged in just because I'm passionate about the show.
Yeah.
And but I've gotten to a point where it's like I just got to stop doing that. It's like, well, every once in a while I'll see something, I'll hit a like, and just just I'm there. But yeah, I can't. I'm telling myself to not do it. unless somebody gives me permission to do it, you know. But yeah, I've gotten to a point where I just got to let people critique it in peace, you know, and try not to say, hey, just it's gonna get good, you know.
Hold on.
Yeah, just hold on. And the thing is, I think it is good.
Yeah,
so, like, I'm proud of it. I mean, but I understand the fact that there are, you know, obviously critiques along the way, and
that's storytelling. I mean, in any way, form, or fashion. I mean, it came from your mind. You know how the universe works. You know how these characters work. You know how they interact together. You know how these worlds are built. Nobody else knows that as in depth as you. And so, you know, we as viewers then take that and incorporate into how we think the world works, how we think the characters interact, how we think the characters should be. And when those intentions that we come up with in our head don't work, I mean, it will make you upset.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's so interesting because it's you know, after you've been with a thing, you know, I've seen that episode 1. I've seen these episodes 30, 40 times.
Yeah.
And after you sit with something for so long, you'll be surprised at like all the things you miss, you know, like, because you're just so in it. It's like tunnel vision.
Oh yeah.
And then like it's almost like when somebody like does a whole, like they clean the kitchen and they make it spotless, and then somebody walks in and is like, hey, you missed a spot.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing. It's
that's absolutely true.
I've been cleaning for 18 hours, you know, like
about.
It's like, what spot? It's like,
and I mean, especially with this, like, just the nature of the pipeline is just these things take months, so long. I mean, especially, I mean, even in going back, and you're with it every step of the way. So going back all the way to just thinking about, you know, I wonder what I'm gonna do next season while you're walking around the house. So
yeah, it's definitely one of those things that it's a challenge to juggle.
Yeah.
And you got to try to kind of, you know, think of everything, and it's impossible to do.
Yeah.
Like I don't know of anybody that has been able to do it. Like even the best shows in the world have not thought of everything.
Sure.
Like, and it's like, we're not the best show in the world, but we are passionate about it, you know, like, and I think we can see that passion. And, you know, there's definitely moments that, you know, I even hit my head against the wall. I'm like, why didn't I think about that? You know, and it's getting that outside perspective, those fresh eyes on it. They're just able to see things that you cannot see. And I don't know how to explain it. You know, it's absolutely crazy because I will be watching something. I'm telling you, I've seen episodes for so many times. And there'll be like the first viewing, they'll be like, hey, there's a mistake right here. I'm like, dude, how did I not see that?
Right.
Like, I've been watching
20 times.
And we all miss it. The entire production.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, how the freak did we not think about that or see that? Like, it's just one of those things that you just are so wrapped up in what you're watching, but you've seen it so many times that your brain is almost putting in the objects or almost like filling in the dialogue. You know, like you're thinking it, but it's not in there, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just one of those moments where it's definitely an experience, you know, binge it, you know, watch it week to week, however you watch it. I think it's going to be a stellar season. And, you know, if these are the first 4, then I'm telling you, it just keeps getting better and better and better. But I know people don't want me to say that, but it does.
It's true. It's true. I mean, okay, let's take it from the fact that it's already good and it's going to get better. Just go with that, because I mean, they're amazing. I really think the rest of the season is just excellent. And you haven't seen the. I haven't seen the end.
the last 3. Yeah, we get the final episode back. I think tomorrow, and I might have to do like a 1, 2, 3. Let you watch the ending, because you have no idea where it's going.
No, I do not. But I am too. And I think that's going to bring us here to the end. Before we wrap up, though, I do want to thank all of our listeners for one of our most successful episode launches last week.
Awesome.
A lot. We had over 250 listeners, at least from counts so far. just through podcast apps. That's not even including YouTube. So thank you so much for supporting the podcast. It really means a lot to me. It means a lot to Olan and the crew. So yeah, thank you all for supporting the podcast and the show. And yeah, that does it for our episode of Into Final Thoughts. We'll be back for number 5 next Tuesday after the episode premieres at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Adult Swim this Saturday. Go follow at Into Final Space and Final Space on both Instagram and Twitter, and you can follow both me and Olan at Gabriel W. Jones and at Olan Rogers. Yeah, and until next time, we'll see you next time on Into Final Space. Thanks, guys.
See ya.